Today we have the pleasure to hear from Mr. Christian Hill. He graduated from 2017 here at ECU with your BSBA, and for the last 5 years, I believe you've been at Fidelity Investments. And while there, I guess most recently, you've been holding that position as managing director, $200 million of current investments that he manages. But also, I think more importantly, as we just previously heard from the keynote speaker, it's about the people and the connections and the network that you can make while you're here at ECU. He's already a chairman here and at the College of Business Young Alumni Council. So please listen up, and thank you here for having what you're going to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Corey. I'm going to put a step over here and kind of do a little strolling. This makes me not feel so naked if I've got something here in front of me. So awesome, guys. Yeah, thank you again, Corey, for the introduction. My name is Christian, and I'm a managing director with Fidelity Investments. As you heard from Corey, just graduated about 5 years ago. I was at the very first leadership conference. Come on in, y'all. And I have very fond memories of being here and sitting in y'all's seats. This is something I've always really, really loved. Leadership has got a really special place in my heart. It's something that my dad was talking to me about when I was 4, 5, 6 years old, sitting in the back seat of the car, and we were talking about politics and how to lead people, and not your typical 6-year-old conversation for most folks. So it started early. It's a passion of mine. It's something that continues to drive me, and it's why I'm here with you guys today, because I hope I can give you a couple of things to take with you when you guys leave the doors here at ECU and you make your way into the wider world that will bring you some value. So with that said, I will jump into it. So all of you guys know the title, I would hope, of today's discussion, which is How to Lead Without a Title. Now, I threw some other stuff on there because it was catchy, and I know we like to make fun of boomers, but bottom line is that you guys are going to be going into a mixed workforce. You're going to be going into a world where you're going to be on a team of people who are retiring next year, who have grandchildren that they're going to be taking off Friday to go celebrate birthdays with and take to the beach. You're going to be working with people that just graduated. You're going to be working with people that are your parents' age. And you've got to know how to blend into that group and how to earn respect of people that have different values and come from different generations. As all of you know, this is no surprise to you, right? Gen Z has got some stereotypes that you guys will need to overcome. I'm sure it's not the first time, or it won't be the last, but you guys will hear things about how, you expect things to be handed to you. You expect that you don't have to work hard for the things that you get. You expect that you're going to be coddled when you get to the workforce. And the truth is there's going to be a little bit of that because things are changing. But there are certain universal things that are going to be expected of you, and that if you do, you are going to stand out, you're going to excel, and you're going to move quickly through your career. So I'll lay out a few of those things today for you. I have got a total of 6, and then I've got a little bonus one that's a 7th at the very end that I'll share with you. So what I'm going to do is I'll just go through all 6 really quick. I'll hit them for you. You can take a note down, write it down, whatever you want to do, and then we'll go flesh some of these things out specifically. Now, what are these things? These are things that I believe that you can do that are tested and have proven to be effective, that when you go into the workforce will earn you the respect of your peers, earn you the respect of your leaders, and help you to develop some leadership in your own right, even though you don't have an executive VP title, you don't have credentials, and you don't have experience. You can still develop these things and earn your leadership stripes early. So, very first one is that we need to learn to build trust with the people that we're working with. Now, some of you guys, well, I don't think many people in this room will remember him, but Dr. Anil Mishra was a professor here. He is now, I believe, the dean of the College of Business at Michigan State, I believe. And he was very big on this. He would talk a lot about trust. And it is extraordinarily valuable. I heard this coming up over and over and over again when I was polling young professionals to get their take on this stuff. This isn't my thoughts, certainly not my wisdom. These are things that I've collected from a lot of different people, and I took the commonalities to share with you. So, building trust, learning to communicate effectively. 3, be coachable and curious. 4, take initiative. 5, build your village. And 6 is know yourself. Now, these are not in a particular order. I don't think any one of these is more important than another. And the truth is that there is 100 more things that we could probably all talk about today. This topic is endlessly fascinating, endlessly dynamic. There's 100 different opinions on how to be the best kind of leader. So what I'm going to share with you today is simply what I have identified as worked for me and has worked for other young professionals. It is certainly not exhaustive. So, build trust. The first thing is that I want you guys to remember, and this is going to sound a little bit blunt, is that you don't know anything. When you go into the workforce, you don't know a lick. And it's going to become very apparent to you very quickly. Now, ECU's job is not to prepare you to do an individual job. That's not what they're here to try to help you accomplish. They are here to give you tools. They are here to equip you. They are here to give you a foundation that you can build from. So, when you get there, you need to recognize that you have to earn the trust of everybody around you. It's not something that's going to be freely given. Some folks are a little more quick to give it than others, but it does need to be earned. So, how do you do it? I'm going to rattle off a few things here, and then I'm going to stop and give you guys a chance to ask some questions or share some input if you have some on these points. So, the first is, and this is going to be extraordinarily obvious, show up on time. I did it, my first job. I had to sit down with my boss on multiple occasions. I'm not a morning person. I failed phys ed twice at ECU. I was a two-sport athlete all the way through school, and I failed PE 1000 twice. And it's because I didn't show up. I would show up 20 minutes late, I would be marked absent, and I had to retake it. It is the bare minimum that you show up on time. Now, come on in, guys. Yeah, you're good.
Sorry.
You're fine.
A little late.
Let me reiterate, be on time. No, I'm messing. So, show up on time, and I'm not one of those people that's going to beat you over the head with that means you got to be there 20 minutes early. Be there before it starts. That's it. It's a pretty simple task. So be on time. Do the little things right. You are not going to earn trust and gain more responsibility if you cannot do the little things correctly and without having to be told. Right? I'm not talking about stuff that's convoluted or things that are job specific. I'm talking about the little things that you've learned from your parents, that you've learned from your bosses, that you learned from your school teachers here. Do the little things right. Pay attention to the details. They matter. Be an optimist and have a good attitude. I'll tell you guys a really quick story. I joined the team at Fidelity about a year into my time with Fidelity, and it was the first time I joined a team with a lot of tenured people. Everybody else in the prior role I've been in was brand new with me. We were fresh out of school for the most part, and we were all newbies. I moved over to a team that had people that were there for 5, 6 years, some of them that have been there for 7, 8, 9, 10 years. And I very quickly found that the people that had been there a long time were not there, or not staying there, because they lacked skills or abilities. They were there because they had a terrible attitude. And what did it do? Our team that I joined was the lowest performing team in the entire country. Now, we had hundreds of people that did what we did. We were the lowest performing team, even though we had more CFPs than any other team in the country. So we should have been more qualified than anybody else. The attitudes of 3 or 4 of these people were so toxic that it drug the entire team down. And it took a conscious effort of will every day to combat that and to be positive. Sometimes they will literally make fun of you for it, like you're in middle school. Right? They'll literally make fun of you for it. But you have to keep doing it. And eventually, the one single thing that is more contagious than negativity and toxicity is positivity. People feel good. They get a chemical release when they smile and when you make them laugh. And it's the only thing that's going to be more powerful than being endlessly toxic. So be positive. Be that influence on your team. I just got an Instagram message from Chris. Appreciate that. So next thing is become excellent at your job. Now, if there is one thing that you guys leave today with, let this be it. Become excellent at what you do. When you go out into the workforce, no amount of flowery language, no amount of handshaking, no amount of brown-nosing is going to disguise the fact that if you suck at your job, you suck at your job. You're not going to get promoted, you're not going to earn respect of your colleagues and peers, and you're certainly not going to be looked to as a leader if you do not become excellent at what you do. That first 6-8 months when you guys graduate and you get into your job, whatever that job may be, leadership does not need to be on your mind. Promotions and raises sure as hell do not need to be on your mind. You need to become excellent at that job. You need to become the guy that when someone comes in and struggles, your boss says, go talk to Christian. He's the one that will help make sure that you're on track. Everything else hinges off of this in the workforce. It is the linchpin to earning people's respect is you have to be competent. So, let that be a big takeaway for you guys. Be yourself, be authentic. Don't put on airs. Don't be the person you think your boss wants you to be. Inevitably, you're probably wrong, and it's your own lack of self-esteem that is telling you you need to be somebody else. Be yourself, be authentic. Recognize that what you bring to the table is why you got hired in the first place. It's what makes you unique, and it's what makes you a value add to your team. Give trust before you ever expect to receive it, right? How many of you guys have seen the meme with the 3 Spider-Mans that are all pointing out like this at each other, right? No one wants to make the first move. You've got to be the one that makes the first move. You've got to be the one that gives trust first. You might get burned on it. You might have an experience where the person you trusted lets you down, or worse, sabotages you in some way. But somebody has to be the one to give trust first. And when you're vulnerable enough to do it for all the reasons I just stated, people will reciprocate it, and they will trust you. Share the credit and hog the blame. When things are going really well, when things are working out, do not be the person that stands up and says, yeah, I know, that was me. No, you get up there, you share the credit with the people on the team that made it happen. Odds are, you couldn't have been successful without the people around you that were supporting you. So share the credit, and when blame comes, when a job doesn't get done right, when there's a perceived failure, be the first person to step up and own it. Bosses love that shit. They love it. You make your boss look good when you own mistakes because there's somebody to blame. But contrary to what you might think, it doesn't become a finger-pointing thing. That's what happens when nobody wants to take the blame. Somebody has to start pointing fingers. When you take the blame, people admire you for it. Right? To be dramatic, you're a martyr. Right? And we know what martyrs have done in history. When you step forward to take the blame, people appreciate it. And again, they trust you because they recognize that you're okay putting your ego on the line and not always being the guy that's right. Last 2 things. Have integrity. Again, this should be a given. What this means is not, someone comes to you with a sleazy deal and you turn them down because you got integrity. No. Integrity is far more simple than that and far more difficult. Integrity is when you tell your client you're going to have an email waiting for them when they come into work Monday morning, that email needs to be there. When your boss comes to you and says, hey, I'm going to be out for the next week. When I come back, I need X, Y, and Z done. You tell them it's going to happen. It needs to happen. And not because your boss told you to do it, but because you committed to it. The moment you violate that trust, it becomes very difficult to earn it back. So be a person of your word. When you commit to something, recognize that is how people begin to know you. That's the reputation that you begin to put forward, is someone that's either accountable and reliable, or someone that's inconsistent, can't be trusted, and can't be relied upon. And lastly, something that I'm not really doing much of today is listen, right? You need to listen. You need to hear what people have to say. You need to make sure that you're understanding the environment that you're in, and that you're taking an opportunity to get the feedback and thoughts of others. Now, this is the longest one. All the rest of these will be much quicker than this, but I think this is arguably the most important, is to build trust when you join a team and you join an organization. So, before I move on to anything else, any commentary on any of those points, any questions, anything that you guys want to play devil's advocate on? Now would be the time. Yeah.
What about like building trust as like a newbie walking in, let's say you're like one of the youngest people in the organization, they're obviously going to look at you differently because of how do you work on that?
It's not obvious to me that they're going to look at you differently. And it's obvious to you. It's not obvious to everybody else, right? So if you do all the things that we're talking about, if you give trust, if you do what you say you're going to do, you have integrity, if you take the blame when things go wrong and you share the credit when things go right, people aren't going to care how old you are. They're going to see right past that, and they're going to see that there's an adult in front of them that takes ownership. So that shouldn't be an issue if you do those things. I saw another hand. Yeah.
When you said that the best way to get trust is to give trust, what are some examples of the way that you can give trust to somebody else?
Yeah. the way when it's hard to give trust is when your reputation's on the line for something. So if you're working on a team, for example, and you've got to rely on a teammate to fulfill their end of whatever this project is that you guys are working on together. And you know if they drop the ball, which maybe they've done before, it's going to reflect poorly on you, right? Maybe you're the leader of that small project. It is your responsibility to make the conscious decision that you're not going to try to run them over. You're not going to take their autonomy away by doing the job for them. That you are going to show them and maybe even say to them, hey, I trust you to do this. I trust you to handle this because I know you're competent. I know your skill set, right? So sometimes that's what it takes, is a very intentional outreach, or a very intentional literally saying to someone, I trust you, I respect you, I know that you're going to do a great job with this. And they're going to want to meet that, right? Whereas I think most people's response is, if they've dropped the ball before and they've lost trust, is that you're going to talk badly about them to the other teammates. You're not going to give them anything of import to do. You're going to avoid, or you're going to be overbearing. You're going to try to micromanage them. So these are all ways that you can demonstrate that you trust somebody.
Christian, I'd like to hear your thoughts. I broke trust. It's my fault. I realize it.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to hear your thoughts about how to go about preparing trust in today's world.
That's really, really hard. First step is don't break the trust. If it comes to that, we all make mistakes, right? I think the first thing you've got to do is own it. You've got to step forward, and you've got to make it clear you're not making excuses for the trust, that you made a mistake. Let that be abundantly clear. There's no hedging. There's no, well, it was a miscommunication. No, you dropped the ball on something. You own it. You accept it. You say you're going to make it right. And then going forward, try not to make the mistake again. I don't think you can dwell on it too much, because once you've done it, you've done it. So I would be acknowledging it, owning it, and then committing to going forward to doing better. Yeah.
Where do you draw the line with holding the blame? Because you can get into it with, I understand if you're the leader of the group, you're responsible for everybody's group. You're not necessarily going to be the leader every time, and if one of your coworkers is completely dropping the ball, how responsibility.
Sure. So don't be the kid in class that's like, waving, right? You don't want to be that guy. People aren't dumb, right? They're going to perceive when something's going wrong and there's a common denominator. They likely will know it's not you. And then let's say, for the example, it's a very specific project, very specific task. Everyone's got their roles, right? The person who assigned you that task probably knows your role. They very well may know that that's not your responsibility for that thing that got dropped. Doesn't matter. That's not the point. The point is that you're going to own it, and that might mean you give extra support to the person who's dropping the ball, right? Maybe they've got something going on that you don't know about, right? There's no benefit in pointing a finger or laying blame elsewhere. It's never going to come out with a successful outcome. So you might as well own it, because it's going to help you just move forward and get things done more quickly if we're talking in a purely pragmatic sense. So, don't throw yourself on the sword because you're wanting to let everyone look at you and be like, wow, that guy, he's got courage, like he's great. Don't do it for that. If you do it from a place though of authenticity, that'll be recognized, and I don't think you'll have that problem.
Thank you.
Cool. One last question before we move on. Corey.
Could you give any examples of how the students could possibly practice some of these things that you're talking about while they're here at ECU? You mentioned, and I talked to my students about attendance and showing up. You're building those characteristics now before you go to the workplace. Is there any other examples you could give?
I mean, yeah, there's examples I could give on any of these things that we've discussed. I think all the things that we're talking about are universal, right? Showing up on time, you guys can do that anywhere, right? Showing up to family dinner on time. Don't be the one that makes everyone wait at the dinner table. Doing the little things right? You got class, don't cheat, right? Don't go get all the answers from your friends. Do the little things right. Do it yourself. Do the research. Do your homework. Take that time. Again, having a good attitude. This is all stuff that you guys can do every day. You can do it at your house. You can do it with your roommates. You can do it in your fraternity. You can do it in your student org. You can do it in your classroom. You can do it at your job. These things are universal. So I would say these are not job skills. These are life skills, and you should be practicing them outside of your job, or else it's going to be forced when you're trying to do it elsewhere. Cool. If you got other questions, jot them down. We can go over them afterwards. But let's move along here. So next one, learn to communicate effectively. Most people know what they want to say, but they struggle to articulate it. They struggle to actually get their point across in a manner in which people can understand and relate. That will take you far if you can learn to do that. That is a fundamental skill that you learn here at ECU. How to communicate professionally, both in written word and in verbal. If you know that you are not comfortable, for example, being put on the spot, don't put yourself in that position. And if you're placed in that position, there is nothing wrong with telling your boss, hey boss, let me think on that. Let me get back to you. Give me an hour. And come back to them. There are very few times where you're going to be put on the spot to provide information or an answer right now. So if you know you need that time, don't embarrass yourself by trying to stumble through something when that's not something you're comfortable with. So, learn to communicate effectively in written and spoken word. Know how you do that best. And don't put yourself in a position to fail. Now, how can you learn to construct your thoughts and your words? I'll be frank, that is something that you probably just need to spend some individual time on. Reading is excellent. Reading is probably the very best tool that you can utilize to help you learn to construct your own thoughts, because you are reading someone's constructed thoughts all day long when you're reading a book. That's what you're doing. You are looking through someone's constructed thoughts. Implement those things into your communication styles. And it will make you a better speaker, it will make you a better writer, and it will make you more effective in the workplace. Learn to simplify complex topics. when you guys go out and work in your first or second job, but really for the rest of your lives, especially early though, you are likely going to be given a subject matter of great specificity. So you're going to be an analyst. You're going to be an associate, right? You're going to specialize in something. There's something that you're going to spend most of your day learning how to do. Your boss's boss's boss learned how to do that shit 15 or 20 years ago. They don't remember any of it. And they don't care to. They've got bigger fish to fry. So it's your job to be able to take that information that you get in the weeds on and that you and your friends throw around all the jargon when you talk about, and you need to be able to simplify that in layman's terms. You should be able to explain it to a 12-year-old. You should be able to explain it to your mom or your dad. You should not be throwing around jargon so that you sound self-important or that you want to make sure everyone knows how smart you are because you threw out 15 acronyms in 3 sentences. Learn to condense the language, learn to simplify it so that anybody can understand it and translate it. Know your audience and prepare accordingly. So if you know you're going into a circumstance where you're going to have to communicate with other folks, whether that be via email, whether that be via a Zoom call, whether that be in person like this, know who you're speaking to. Do a little bit of research, right? Know who you're actually having a conversation with so that it's not tone deaf. I worked on a team where we did financial planning. And we didn't go into all the nuts and bolts. I called it financial planning light. We kind of stayed high level. But there was a lot of people in that room that had gotten their CFPs. They were certified financial planners. They had been doing this for many years. They took a lot of pride that they could go beneath the surface with clients. And we had a new boss that came in, got hired. Nobody knew this guy. He came over from another company. And one of the very first interactions we had with him was he got in a room with us just like this. And he said, you guys don't know anything about how to do real planning. Right? He looked at a room full of people who called themselves planners, who aspired to be planners, and he said, you guys don't really know what planning is. And we're not really asking you to do real planning. The faces in that room, I was one of them, were incredulous. This guy came off the street. We don't know this guy from anywhere, but we just know he's our boss's boss, and he just told us that we're idiots and we don't know what we're doing. He did not know his audience. He did not read the room. Read the room, know your audience, save yourself from some really embarrassing mistakes. He never lived that down, by the way, and he's gone now. I don't think that's why, but it certainly didn't hurt. Once again, I mentioned this in the prior section of building trust, but listen, right? That's just as important part of communicating as you actually doing the speaking. Learn to listen actively. Listening is not in any way a passive thing. You need to be listening actively. Great tip here. Repeat people's words back to them. There was a study done with some servers, waiters and waitresses at a restaurant. And they had one group of the servers say things after they took an order like, great, fantastic, terrific, great choice. And they had another group come in and all they did was repeat the order back to the customer. It had like a steak medium well with garlic mashed potatoes and hold the onions. Great. Steak, well done, medium well, whatever the hell I just said. I clearly wasn't listening very well. Mashed potatoes and hold the onions. That was it. They didn't give him any affirmation. They didn't pat him on the back. That group that was simply repeating people's words back to them, on average, got a 70% better tip. 70%. Why is that? People like to know you're listening. How many times have you talked to someone and while you're talking, they're going, yeah, uh-huh. Yeah, right, yep, uh-huh. And they interrupt you every time you're saying something to show you, I guess, that they're trying to listen to you. Wait for people to stop speaking. Give them a moment. Look them in the face. Let them know that you've heard them. And repeat things back. And they'll know you're listening and they'll value it. All right. Take notes down. Take questions because we've got 15 minutes. I want to make sure I get through the rest of these things today. So if you've got questions on these things, write them down. Be coachable and curious. Don't wait for feedback. Go seek it out. Odds are your bosses are going to be really, really busy. They're going to have some time set up to speak with you, like maybe once a quarter, every 3 months. You really think that's frequent enough for you guys to get better at what you're doing? To get feedback every 3 months? A lot of you might not be in the first job for more than 6 months. So you might hear from your boss twice the whole time you do that job. Go seek it out. Ask for it. If you go out and ask for it, it's speaking volumes about the type of person and the type of professional that you're striving to be. Take ownership of your own growth and development. This is your career. No one is going to care about it more than you do. Take the time to take a critical eye to the direction you want your career to go. And then go seek it out. Take the initiative to go find out what it is that you need to do to achieve the development that you've got in your mind. Ask intelligent questions and don't ask them more than once. Every single one of you, by a show of hands, how many of you have heard there's no such thing as a dumb question? You've been lied to. There is absolutely dumb questions. And they're usually not actually subject matter. They're not actually all that dumb. What usually happens is someone just told you the answer, and you just told the whole room that you haven't heard a single thing that they've said. That's a dumb question. If you are in meeting with a leadership team, your boss's boss's boss, and you stand up and you ask them in a completely tone-deaf manner what you need to do to get a raise. Or, I heard this one, asking your boss how much money they make in a meeting with like 30 people in it. Tone-deaf. Bad question. Don't do it. Ask intelligent and thoughtful questions, and don't come back and ask them over and over again, or else you're going to demonstrate you're not listening. And you're not taking notes, you're not taking feedback. Have humility, recognize what you don't know, but at the same time be confident in what you do. Don't let people run you over. Don't let people scare you. If you do client work, you'll get that a lot. Clients are going to challenge you. Clients think they know everything. Clients are always right. They've heard that enough times that they actually believe it. You will get pushed. Know when you don't know. Don't be afraid to say it. But when you do know, don't be afraid to plant your flag. Be confident in your answer. And if they want a second opinion, ask them, would you like a second opinion? If so, go get them one. And if you're confident you're going to come back and give them the same answer, that's really nice. Right? When a client's pushing and pushing and pushing, and you come back and you've got a manager or somebody else that gives them the same response, that feels really good. Lastly, we talked about this as well. Don't make excuses. Own it. Right? If you make mistakes, if you screw up, if you drop the ball, don't make excuses. It's such a frustrating thing when someone will not just own the fact that they made a mistake. It's okay. Every single person in this room is going to make a mistake. The person that's on your case for making the mistake probably has made the same mistake or another similar one in the past. It's okay. Just own it, take the feedback, and let's move on. Okay, next section, take initiative. I don't know if anybody in here is a football fan, but in the words of the great Marshawn Lynch, I'm just about that action, boss. Right? That's what we're here to do. We are here to take action. We're here to get things done. We're here to take initiative. We're not here to wait on someone to tell us what to do. Right? Again, if you want to move up in a company, if you want to show your bosses that you have what it takes to move up, take initiative. I cannot tell you how much they will value somebody that doesn't constantly wait to be told what to do. They find areas that need it and they fill the void. You will become infinitely valuable to your company if you make that a habit. To identify areas that need the support and you step in, you fill the void. It is arguably one of the very best things you can do if your goal is to move quickly through the first few years of your career. That is a cheat code. I'll skip through some of these because we talked about this, taking ownership of the problem. Don't be too good for any task. There is nothing that's beneath you, particularly when you first come out of school. We've established this. You don't know shit. Take the opportunity to take any task on, and you're going to learn from it. It's going to be an experience that you'll be able to pull from later. When you are someone's boss, you are someone's leader, you're going to have an understanding of what their role was because you took on the little tasks. Think critically. Don't immediately seek help when you don't know the answer right away. Again, your bosses are busy. Let me state this a second, third, fourth time. Your bosses are busy. They want you to approach them. They're going to tell you to. But if you approach them over and over with stuff that they told you how to do last week or that they know you just had a team meeting to discuss this week, they're going to get frustrated. Think critically about the problem. Go get help if you've thought critically and you genuinely don't know, but don't make that your first move to go seek help. Lastly, become your boss's go-to person. Whatever it is that you do, it could be any particular job, become the person that's the very best at it that your boss goes to and approaches when they want something to get done. That reputation will precede you everywhere that you go, and it speaks volumes about your character and the type of professional that you are. Next piece here is build a village. I will make this clear. I very intentionally, nowhere in any of these bullet points have I brought up the word network. I really hate that word. It's so overused, and it's really obnoxious. It's not a network. It's relationships. We make them everywhere we go. When you go to the same gym every single day and you see the guy at the counter, you get to know him a little bit. He's not part of your network. It's a relationship. Now, does that mean next time you forget your pass to get into the gym, that maybe he's going to let you in the gym because he sees you every day and you guys have a relationship? Yeah, maybe. But it's not because he's your network. It's because you've taken the time to build a relationship with him or her. So, build a village. Get to know your colleagues. Take genuine interest in them and their lives. Right? Spend some time talking to them. It's not just about work and isn't complaining about work. Right? You really get to talk with them. Can you join us?
I mean, I was coming in for the next one.
Come on in. You're getting an extra dose of wisdom. Come on in. So take a genuine interest in your colleagues, in their lives, and the things that are important to them. Get to know them. Be open to mentorship and guidance. Now, I specifically did not state here to seek a mentor. Right? There's all this like ridiculous stuff online about like how this, my mentor can teach you how to make 6 figures in the next 12 months. Right? You don't need to go seek a phony mentor. Simply be open to it. And you're going to attract people in your life that recognize that openness. They're recognizing a kindred spirit of somebody who wants to learn, of someone who is curious. And they will approach you and they will want to help you and to be a part of your life and build a relationship with you. So be open to mentorship and guidance. Engage with people outside of your business unit. The corporate world can get very siloed. Think about the College of Business. How many of you guys that are, marketing majors, how much time do you spend with finance majors? Right? It's pretty marginal unless you're in some kind of a shared class with them. That continues into the workforce. You're going to find that you're going to have a little bubble where you're going to know everybody, you guys do all the same things, and you talk the same language. You've got to be able to get outside of that and connect with other people that you work with and that are business partners of yours. Again, if you can become the go-to guy, if you can become the person that solves problems, a lot of times it's because you know somebody. You know someone that your teammates don't, that's able to help you effectively get the job done because you took the time to get outside of your comfort zone, outside of your bubble, and build good relationships with them. Support your teammates, celebrate with them, and include them in the wins. Again, we've talked about this. Don't take credit for these victories. Share it with them. Take time to celebrate the things that are important to your coworkers and your colleagues. If they've got things that they're excited about, celebrate with them. Make them feel like you're genuinely excited for the things that they're excited about. Recognize the value of diversity. Again, another kind of a buzzword. We hear a lot about this. But there is so much value in someone bringing a perspective to the table that you don't have. They've got different life experiences than you. They've got a different upbringing than you. And they're going to approach problems from an entirely different angle than you. Take advantage of that. You want that as part of your team. And you only get that by being open to it. Lastly, show up to the optional events. There's going to be a lot of stuff that goes on at work where your employer is trying to make it a better workplace for you. They're trying to make things more fun. They're trying to make things more engaging. And people will roll their eyes. They think, well, I just spent 8 hours here. I want to go home. I'm hungry. I want to go see my wife, my husband. Go to the optional events. It's a great place to build relationships. It's a great place to make friends. It's a great place to meet coworkers that can support you in the future when you need their support and their help because you're your boss's go-to guy or gal and you need to get something done. Okay. Last one. Know yourself. Develop some self-awareness. Take some time to really think about the way that you're perceived by others. The best way you can do that is go ask. We've got big filters in place for the way we are perceived by others. Go ask people what they think of you, right? People that you value, not some schmo that you don't know. Go find people whose opinions you value. Your parents. How many of you guys have asked your parents, what do you think about me as an adult? What are the things that you think I'm good at? What are the things that you think I can improve upon? Right? How many of you guys have done that? By show of hands, how many of you guys have asked your parents to give you that sort of feedback? Okay, so I see about 4 or 5 hands. Go do that this weekend. Go ask your parents what they think of you, not as their son and daughter, but as a professional, as a grown-up, as an adult, as someone that they would like to go spend a weekend with at a barbecue. Do your parents actually like you? Right? That's not a given. It's not. Some of you guys might be assholes. So far, everyone today has been pretty nice, but your parents might not. That's good to know. That's good to find out. Go ask your best friend the same question. Think of the people in your life that have been the most positive leaders, the most positive role models. And think about why. What are the characteristics and the qualities that they've demonstrated to you that's allowed you to earn their trust? Or that's, they've earned your trust, rather. And emulate those things. And likewise, if you had a bad experience with a parent, with a family member, with a friend that was shitty to you, look at those things and make sure you identify that you don't include those things, those characteristics in your relationships with others. Focus on self-improvement and get better. Right? When you go into the workforce, you're going to be expected to be better year over year over year. It's not going to be acceptable that you guys have worse outcomes than the year prior. So that means you've got to do some self-improvement work. Go get that designation. Go get that license. Go back to school and get that MBA or that second degree. It's going to make you better. Prioritize your mental health. This is something I've dealt with for many, many years. Any of you guys that know me well know that it's an integral part of my story. But I just went and saw a therapist for the first time in my life during COVID. I was miserable. As a matter of fact, I came to the leadership conference last year. I was part of a panel. I was so anxious about it that I literally had to hire a therapist. That's how anxious I was. On the whole drive here from Raleigh, I was blasting music as loud as it would go in my car and singing the lyrics as loud as I could because it was the only thing that would get my mind out of the spiraling that it was wanting to start doing. Take care of your mental health. If you can't be healthy and whole when you go to work, you're not going to be able to do any of the things that we've talked about. So make sure that you're whole, you've got a solid foundation, That will allow you to branch out and to support others and to do all the things that you want to do as a professional, but it's got to start there. And lastly, this is your 7th step, the very last one. Put your phone away when you are at work. It's okay to pull it out if you're like in a conversation and someone says, hey, can you pull this up for me, look this up? Right. That's appropriate. If your boss walks by your desk 4 times that day and he sees you on your phone all 4 times, I assure you that is a terrible look. It doesn't matter if you're looking something up for work. Do it on your work computer. It doesn't matter if your boss asks you to pull something up. Do it on your work computer. Get off your phone. Be present in the moment. Be present at those boring meetings that really suck and you don't want to be at. Be present in them. And again, it's going to speak volumes of your character and who you are as a professional. All right, guys. That was pretty damn good. 9:47. Thank you.